Hello, everybody. This is Parrish Alford with the Daily Journal. I'm joined now by former Ole Miss wide receiver Cory Peterson. Cory, how are you, man?
Doing great, Parrish. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, we are glad to have you. And of course, anytime we're talking with Cory Peterson, the Egg Bowl is going to come up. We're going to get to that in a moment. But I had somebody on Twitter reach out and say, "Hey, that touchdown catch to win the game against LSU in 1998." was bigger than the Egg Bowl 2-point conversion in 1997. So I said, well, I'll just start Cory out with that. Cory, which one was bigger?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Regardless of the game, if I would have dropped one or two of those, I would have had to transfer. So they were both huge games for myself as well, my teammates. But I don't know. I think both of those games, it's hard to say which one was bigger. They were both huge for our program and getting our program going in the right direction because of probation ending in 96. The 97 game, those seniors had put so much into the program and stuck around and went through all that probation. For us to get a win against State in the Egg Bowl and to put us in the 1997 Motor City Bowl was huge. So I would have to say the State game, especially with all those great senior leaders that we had. I know they would appreciate it if I picked the Egg Bowl. So both big games, but let's go with the 97 Egg Bowl for now.
Well, I tell you what, in the interest of full disclosure here, I was the Mississippi State beat writer and missed most of your career. I moved over to Ole Miss in 2002 for that football season. But I never heard a nickname for you associated with the LSU game. I always heard it with the Egg Bowl. So that's what comes to mind for me. But just tell me a little bit, going back to that game, the 1997 Egg Bowl in Starkville. Number one, you don't see the home team lose in this series a lot right now. It's really kind of turned into a big home field advantage. But going back to that game, that drive down the field, you guys scored with like 30 seconds left. Was there any discussion on the sideline, or what was the discussion like? How close were you guys to kicking the extra point as opposed to going for two?
Yeah, well, I mean, that game was it was typical Egg Bowl, rain and cold. We scored on our first drive, and then we scored on that last drive, as you mentioned, with 30-something seconds left. I think being in the situation that we were, that if we win, we go to a bowl game, kick them out of bowl game, and then vice versa on their side, that Coach Tubb called a timeout, looked at us. We had moved the ball pretty quickly on that drive, had a huge catch by Andre Roan. Rufus caught a pass. John made some plays, and obviously Stewart let us down there. I think that was just inevitable that we needed to go for it. I know the coach's mentality, if you get an opportunity, if you're away, go for the win. And I think Coach Tubb, being kind of the gambler that he was, he believed in us, and he just knew we were going to get the 2-point conversion. So he looked at us in the huddle and said, can we do it? And we all were yeah, let's go, coach. Let's go, coach. And he called a great play. Offensive line did an unbelievable job. Everybody got open, and Stewart just threw a bullet in there, and the rest is history.
You mentioned that drive. It looked like so many people had big catches and big plays along the way. And one of the biggest was that Andre Roan catch right after an intentional grounding call that really kind of put you guys behind the 8 ball a little bit. What do you remember about that drive?
I remember about the drive. I remember personally being very worn out. I mean, it was a long, grinded out game, in the cold weather, raining. I just remember being worn out by the end of that. But you're on adrenaline at that point in the game, and you realize how big a game it is. You're so focused. But Andre's catch, I mean, if you look back at it, he gets hit, I believe, by two defensive backs pretty hard. And Stewart threw such a great pass up the seam and hit him. It was meant to be, because if we don't get that, then I think it's third and long, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, whatever it was. And it was going to be a tough one to make a first down and continue the drive. But it seemed like every play in that drive was just bigger than the next. And obviously Andre had a great game. I mean, he scored our first touchdown and then scored our last touchdown, and just made some huge plays for us in that game. But Eli Anding made some huge blocks. Our offensive line just did a great job, and then obviously Rufus, being such a tight, one of the best tight ends in the country at the time, made some big play on that drive as well. So
just remembering that drive too, and I'll tell you, Cory, I remember it a whole lot better since I watched it on YouTube a little bit ago before we got started here. But it just seemed like Mississippi State was out of sync. I mean, it seemed like either the pressure was either not there at all or certainly a step slow. And then in the secondary, it just looked like you guys were wide open a lot of the time. You mentioned the hits that Roan had on that catch. He was pretty open before then, and again the hits came. I saw him hold on to the ball and then bounce back up, but it just looked like State was out of sync a lot on that drive. I mean, could you remember the emotions of those guys as y'all were moving the ball down the field? I mean, did you sense apprehension on their part?
It's hard to remember exactly at that moment. It just seems like it was so long ago. But just remember, I think they felt the pressure. I know, you see these great college football games, NFL games. At that end, it seems the offense always has that upper hand because we will know where we're going. We know the routes we're running. It's slick out there, so we have the advantage as wide receivers and so on with our tight end. I just think it was meant to be. The guys that we had on that field and the leadership with Walker, Nate Wayne, Eli Anding, John Avery, Andre. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think we just played so well together. We believed in each other. I realized State at the time had more talent than us overall, more depth, more NFL players, but I just think it was meant to be. We felt so inspired because we know if we get that win, we're rewarded with another bowl game and another 2 weeks of practice to get better. And just we're able to squeak out a win in Starkville, and it's one of my greatest memories to play with those guys and get that W.
Hey, on the 2-point conversion play, you ran that curl route right in front of Stewart there. Just, on a route like that, how much do you have to pay attention to making sure you get inside the goal line? I mean, you were very close to the goal line, but you had to make sure you were across it.
Yeah, I was. It's just, when you're running a play like that, you don't have a lot of time, obviously. He's got to get rid of the ball quick or else he's getting tackled or the ball's getting blocked because they're coming up the middle, they're blitzing. And with my role on that play, I basically run a crossing route. It's called Z drive. I was the Z receiver. And if there's an opening, break it down. Stewart's going to see and he'll hit you if they're playing zone. In that particular case, they were playing man. And I realized we didn't have that much time. So I just tried to do my best to get Stewart a little target to look at. And he threw a bullet, and I couldn't do anything but catch the ball because it was just right there. And then, thank the Lord, I was over the goal line at that time, and the rest is history.
I saw the sideline, everything erupt and whatnot, but just what was post game like? What did Coach Tuberville have to say in the locker room? I mean, what were some of those celebratory moments like?
Oh, it was incredible. After the catch, we still had a little bit of time on the clock, so we had to stop him and keep him out of field goal range. And defense stepped it up. Tim Strickland, another guy from Memphis, Tennessee, from Hamilton High School. I went to Germantown. He makes the big play at the end and gets that pick to end the game. But quite honestly, with myself, I'm on the sideline puking up the whole time. I got sick right after that play, and everything happened so fast. And before you know it, the game's over. Tim makes that interception, and we're on our way to Detroit for the Motor City Bowl. But that locker room, you just don't know the feeling and appreciate it until you're old and 38 years old like myself. But it was incredible. I was a young player at the time. I was a sophomore, so it really helped me, I think, as mature as a leader for the rest of my career, junior and senior year, to see how our seniors handled it. And and for us to get used to winning big games like that. And we did, at least, the years I was there, felt like we made some big wins, had some big wins.
Were you guys surprised that Jackie Sherrill attempted the field goal there at the end instead of trying to punch you all back deeper?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but with a game like that, grind it out, run the ball, get a first down here and there. I think he was just trying to get the points when he could, if there was an opportunity, even though it was a long field goal. So, but on a wet field like that, it was a little bit surprising.
All right, take us back to the LSU game in 1998. I wasn't there for that one, and honestly, if I hadn't read about it on Twitter a minute ago, wouldn't know to ask you. But what do you remember about that play and that game?
Yeah, it's another, obviously, our second biggest rivalry against LSU. Halloween, we played the game on Halloween. We jumped out and got the lead right at the beginning. I mean, we think we were up, if I remember right, maybe by 3 touchdowns, and really we're cruising in the game. And then here comes the fourth quarter. Their quarterback starts making some plays. They had Kevin Falk, I believe, at the time. He's making plays, and before you know it, we let it slip away from us a little bit and got into overtime. And with the game on Halloween, I mean, anything can happen. So it didn't surprise me, but our guys stayed tough. Our defense played tough, and we're in overtime. We got the ball first, and sure enough, Romero hits me on a deep cross about 15 yards. I catch it, kind of turn around, and I see a little bit of an opening, and I start to go towards the goal line and jump, and I get hit from both sides, and that ball just pops straight up in the air, and I'm laying in the end zone, and it falls right back into my lap, and I catch it again. That was so long ago in pre high def years on TV. So and before instant replay. So that could have gone either way if I would have dropped it. It could have gone as a fumble and they get it and we lose the game, or I already crossed, then I fumbled. But with all that being said, I was able to hold on to it. Romero just threw a great pass. We get the points up front, and then I believe we missed the extra point, if I remember right. So our defense had to keep them out of the end zone and keep them from scoring a touchdown and getting an easy extra point. And sure enough, our defense stepped up. I believe Seneca Taylor made an unbelievable play to tip it on fourth down. And the rest is history. We run out on the field and get to celebrate a great Halloween win against LSU, one of our biggest rivalries. Great memory, though.
Cory, what are your impressions about Ole Miss football right now and what you've seen last year under Hugh Freeze and just where you think the program is?
The program is going in such a great direction. I'm obviously a little biased because I played with Grant. He's a great friend of mine, and played with Matt Luke, and I've just been excited since we hired Freeze, and he gave those guys opportunities to come coach his key players at receiver and offensive line. And I tell you what, it seems like with all these great receivers, starting with Mega Kwan and Attaboy Joe, and a lot of young receivers, Cody Core, that we're turning out to be receiver U, and I'm proud of that. I think if I was playing nowadays, I'd be about ninth string with all the talent we have. But it's great to see these guys that are juniors now, that were huge recruits, that have panned out and exceeded expectations. Just seems like we are now getting the depth that we can compete for an SEC championship year in and year out. And I'm just proud of what Coach Freeze has done for the university, for our program, and to see these guys graduate and him to be a great leader and ambassador for our university and make sure they get their degree when they're done playing. I think I'm proud for everybody involved. So.
Have you kept up with this quarterback competition much? How do you think that evolves?
Yeah, I have a little bit. I've watched some film on Chad when he was at the junior college, and he reminds me a lot of Bo Wallace. Quite frankly, I think they had similar stats in junior college. But I know Ryan's there. Ryan's doing a good job for him. I think Ryan is probably the safe bet. I think athletically, Chad has a lot of potential, but you just never know until you get into an SEC battle what the quarterback's going to do and how they're going to react when you have a giant defensive end, NFL guy coming at you, trying to hit you in the chin, and blitzes and LSU's defense. You just never know. So I think whoever is the quarterback, just try not to screw it up. You got talent on every position. You have Quan, you have Evan Ingram, you have all these other receivers, great running backs. I think it's going to be a fantasy football type offense, quite frankly, and great offense line as well. But I'm looking for those land sharks too. So looking forward to doing the land shark, getting a lot of sacks, and our defense playing big as well, continuing that trend for us.
Now, Hugh has said this quarterback competition could possibly linger into the season a little bit. If it does that create a different sort of obstacle in preparation for Alabama in week 3 if you're only at that time naming a starter, or maybe if you haven't named it by then?
Absolutely. I think they need to, obviously, these first 2 games, we got to figure it out. Game 1, play them both, see how they react to the blitzes and to the defensive. Fresno State's a pretty good team at number 2, but we got to have a quarterback named going into to Alabama. We had the benefit of playing them at home with a great environment last year, and we made the plays at the end and they didn't. But it's going to be a different ball game this year. They're going to want revenge, and that place is going to be packed and loud, 100,000 fans plus there. We got to have our quarterback. We got to go in there and be comfortable with the starter and just go from there, because it's a long season. You got to have that guy. To me, it's hard to play 2 different quarterbacks in the SEC because of the defenses are just so tough to play against and to make big plays against. You got to have one guy out there at all times, bearing an injury.
You mentioned the Land Sharks on defense. Now, how do you think that group overcomes the loss of Sinquez Golson and all of the turnovers he created there with the interceptions? Do you think they can plug in 2 new cornerbacks and not miss a beat?
Yeah, I think they can. I know missing Sinquez and Cody Pruitt, 2 of my favorite players. There's going to be big shoes to fill there, but we got some young talent at cornerback, some young speed. I think the level of our speed and defense last year and then going into this year is the best it's been since the early 90s. And obviously, you got a monster in the middle with Kimdichie. You got his brother at linebacker. I think we've got some playmakers. I'm curious to see what the linebackers do, but I think they'll play even better because of our defensive line. They're going to take so much attention. It's going to take multiple double teams and maybe even triple teams with Kimdichie, and that's going to free up our ends too. So I'm looking for CJ to have a big year this year, and I think these young guys at corner, I think we're comfortable with them. They've got the speed. They just got to get out there in a game-like situation. And we got to put points on the board, because when we do that, then we'll put the pressure on the opposing team with blitzes and then bring the land shark to them.
Well, Cory, we'll close with this, man. I get asked this all the time, so I'll just float it on to you here. How many wins for this team? How does it finish up?
Woo, that's a tough one. Here, let me look at the schedule. I say we go 10 wins. Let's say 10 wins this year.
All right, who are your losses there?
Well, you're putting me on the spot.
We get it all the time, man.
I'm scared. I'm scared of 2 teams. I'm scared of Alabama, obviously, and I'm scared of at Auburn. I feel like playing at home, we've created an environment at Ole Miss that quite frankly, it's a lot more fun being in the Grove than it was when I was crossing the middle getting my head rung. So I'm going to go with either Alabama or Auburn, but with those 2 teams, it could go either way. We just got to learn to play on the road and get those big wins, and I think we're going to have a great season. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Well, Cory, you handled it beautifully. You didn't drop it, man. You did great with it, just like going across the middle. Hey, thanks so much for being with us, man. We appreciate your time.
Paris, thanks for having me. Hotty toddy, brother.
Thanks.
Welcome.